Hello, scientific writers. Welcome to the next lesson. This lesson is called Structure Your Paragraphs and Sentences for Impact. And so what we'll learn in this lesson is how to write a paragraph. And it might sound obvious, but it's not entirely obvious. There are some important considerations to take in mind for writing a paragraph. And there are also important considerations to take in mind for writing the sentences that go into that paragraph. Paragraphs together make up sections, and sections make up the entire scientific paper or grant proposal. So let's begin by looking at the learning outcomes for this lesson. After this lesson, you will be able to explain how to structure a paragraph. You'll be able to explain the power positions in a paragraph, list examples of purposes of a paragraph, describe the characteristics of a good paragraph, define ideal sentence length, explain the power positions in a sentence, determine the correct subject and verb for a sentence, structure sentences in parallel structure, and finally explain ways to ensure paragraph coherence. So we're going to cover a lot of information in this lesson. I think you're going to enjoy it and hopefully learn some things that will make your writing better. Let's start off with paragraphs, and then later in the lesson we'll get to sentences. So what is a paragraph? It might seem obvious to you that a paragraph is a collection of sentences and that a paper is made up of a bunch of paragraphs. But there's more to it than that. A paragraph is more than a collection of sentences. A paragraph is an organizational tool. Paragraphs are going to be the units that lead your reader through your thought process, step by step, section by section. So if you start thinking about them in terms of organizational tools, that's going to help you structuring your paragraphs. So what is the structure of a paragraph? Ideally, a paragraph will begin with a topic sentence. And then it's going to go through a few sentences of development, and then it will have a conclusion. So topic, sentence, development, conclusion. Let's break that down a little bit more. A topic sentence is the first sentence of a paragraph that's going to let the reader know what the paragraph will be about. In other words, it's going to set the expectations for that paragraph. When you get into the development sentences, you'll have supporting arguments, and these will go into greater detail than the topic sentence goes into. They're going to allow you to elaborate on theoretical points and or on your reasoning for making the assertions that you're making. Then you should have some sentences that give evidence or examples. So support your arguments by citing figures or tables if you're in the results section, or cite previous publications as support or examples. The last sentence should be a conclusion that wraps the paragraph up and pulls it together. It's not a summary. It's a conclusion. It's not a summary. So it's not going to summarize what you said in the paragraph. Rather, it's going to advance the logical development of your paper and advance the overall goal of the paper. Let's look at an annotated example of a paragraph. So I'm going to show you a paragraph, and I'm going to label the parts of this paragraph. Okay, so first I'm going to read the paragraph to you, and then we'll go back through it. So it says, a major challenge for the extracellular vesicle field is being able to demonstrate in vivo EV transfer between cells. To address this problem, a few groups have recently developed clever modifications of EVs, allowing tracking of their behavior and their target cells in vivo. Figure 2. Either proteins or mRNA cargoes of EVs have thus been modified. For instance, fusing a fluorescent protein to a polymethylation sequence induces its localization at the plasma membrane, as well as in secreted EVs of all sizes. The EVs could then be visualized in the tumor microenvironment by intravital microscopy on animals bearing tumors expressing this fusion protein. Fusion of luciferase to a protein transmembrane domain also allowed its secretion in EVs and subsequent enzymatic measurement of luciferase activity in distant cells. These authors also designed an intracellular probe to fluorescently label mRNA secreted in EVs and tools to measure EV-borne mRNA encoding luciferase signal. While these tools are promising, studies so far have only demonstrated EV-borne mRNA transfer between cultured cells in vitro. So in my opinion, this is a very good example of a nice paragraph that follows the formula for structuring a paragraph. It has a topic sentence. A major challenge for the extracellular vesicle field is being able to demonstrate in vivo EV transfer between cells. So that topic sentence lets you know what this paragraph is going to be about. And every sentence in the paragraph should reflect back to that topic sentence. And in this paragraph, it does. So they did a nice job. Then, after that topic sentence, they developed their key idea, and that's highlighted in gold here. And then they gave examples and evidence. Those are the sentences highlighted in red. Now, I took out the references for ease of reading, but the authors did cite references here. And then they have a nice conclusion. So the conclusion is wrapping the paragraph together by saying, while these tools are promising, and then it's looking forward by saying that studies so far have only demonstrated EV-borne mRNA transfer between cultured cells in vitro. So by reading that conclusion, you see that they're both wrapping this paragraph up and they're looking forward into what's going to come in the next paragraph. It's probably going to be something about how these tools can be used in other ways to advance the EV field. So that was an example of a very nice paragraph. There are different ways that you could organize your paragraphs. As you're walking through the different sentences, depending on what you're trying to accomplish with that paragraph, you might order the sentences in different ways. For example, you might order them chronologically, or you might go from most to least important, from general to specific, from familiar to unfamiliar, or from simple to complex. So as you're writing your paragraphs, think about what you're trying to accomplish with that paragraph, and that will help you decide how to organize the sentences within it. Within a paragraph, the first sentence and the last sentence are considered the power positions. So this is where you should put your most important points, in that topic sentence and in that conclusion sentence. So if we go back to that example paragraph and just read the first sentence and the last sentence, we can see that they're talking about the major challenge and that it has not been accomplished yet. So it holds together rather nicely.